I think I did this episode to be a little bit more transparent with y'all, just to, I guess, show y'all what I've been going through since and before I started the show. Yo, welcome back to Likkle Table. I'm your host, your favorite neighborhood, Rasta. And as you can see, I don't have a guest this week. I decided to do something a little bit different. For episode number 85, I came to the understanding and realization that I've done 84 episodes now and haven't really given y'all much of an insight as to who I am as the host. If you've been following along, you pick up little tidbits here and there, but I just decided to do this episode about a story of pretty much my life and who I am to further introduce me to y'all and, continue on with this journey. So, with that being said, my name is Darren Norman. I am from Daytona Beach, Florida. Born October 29th, 1995. I am a Scorpio. An October Scorpio, though. I don't really, the November ones be kind of mental. But, Jesus. But yeah, born and raised Daytona Beach, Florida, with an exception of 3 years, and I will get to that. I was raised primarily by my mother and grandmother until she passed, and I guess what you can call a father figure from my younger sibling's father. From as long as I can remember, I've always been an outdoors kid. I like playing outside, getting into stuff. I was a little bad. I ain't gonna say bad. I was inquisitive, okay? I was very inquisitive. I asked a lot of questions. I got into a lot trying to experiment. Like I say, I was outside a lot, probably further off than I was supposed to be. As far back as I can remember, it's probably like preschool, kindergarten, probably first grade. I can remember all the way back there. Shouts out to moms. Like I say, she was majority single mother as I was growing up. My father opted out. And so about kindergarten, first grade, we lived in Hollow Hill area. I went to Hollow Hill Elementary, if I'm not mistaken, briefly. Then we ended up moving with my grandma. We ended up moving to an apartment on Williamson, and I started going to Palm Terrace Elementary. I went there from second grade to like half of fourth grade. Yep, I was there for a couple years. Got into my first fight out there. He kind of sucker punched me and ran off. I had to chase him down. It was a very, very upsetting day. This was also around the time, maybe like second or third grade, where my mom met my siblings' father. Those siblings weren't here at the time. It was just me and my younger sister, Daisha. Me and her are about 3-4 years apart. So it was just me and her for a while. So when they met, shortly after, here comes my second little sister, Isis. She was born when I was around 9. I was in about the 3rd grade. This is also the same year I decided to join and perform in a talent show at the school, and choked on stage and hit myself in the head with the dang microphone. Good times. But yeah, this was also around the time where I would go to my grandma's house often. She stayed in another apartment complex pretty much on the other side of Daytona. They had a decent pool. She was there from that time, like pre-K, kindergarten, 1st grade, until shortly before she passed. So I had a lot of history out there in that apartment complex. Still do. Me and my cousin Eddie Lee Stilo, he was just here a couple episodes ago. Me and him, it was just me and him for a little minute, because he's like 6-7 months younger than me. So we was like real close growing up, because our moms are sisters. So we was pretty much always around each other. Then it was my sister Daisha, like 3 or 4 years later, and then my other cousin Shania. It was us four for a while, rocking and rolling, the original 4, until my auntie had her next child, if I'm not mistaken. It was either my auntie or my mom, because my sister and my cousin TJ are very close in age too. So I forget who was born first, but that kicked off the addition of the siblings and cousins and stuff, adding on to the family tree. As I said, I had a lot of memories out there in the apartment complex, going to the pool, me and my cousin wrestling and stuff, riding skateboards, all kind of crazy foolishness, jumping off the sides of the buildings. It's not supposed to be doing this. And yeah, he was always at Nana house. So after the middle of 4th grade, we ended up moving in with my grandma briefly. And I started going to Cherokee Elementary for like the last half of 4th grade. And I just so end up being in the class with my dang cousin. So that was pretty cool. Growing up, I was always exposed and interested in music and stuff, and fine arts and performing arts, which will pretty much be the foundation of a lot of other endeavors to come. So after 4th grade, we ended up moving to D-Land, which is about 30 minutes outside of Daytona, 30 minutes to the west. And I went to Freedom Elementary for just 5th grade. Horrible experience, not gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna say 0 out of 10, because I met a couple decent people there, but just being the new kid the last year of elementary school, it was like, I don't know. It was kind of difficult to make friends, because everybody already had their cliques for the most part. Like, all of these kids been going to the same schools and stuff since they was in pre-K and kindergarten at first. So they're like, who the hell is this new kid? And this was also around the time when I started my growth spurts. So I was starting to be one of the more bigger kids of the classes. That led to, I guess, some insecurities. I started becoming a lot more shy. But I don't know. I kind of max that by being outspoken, or like not outgoing, but, and I was quiet, but like when I said something, it was usually something of value or something funny. And I started to gain that reputation going into 6th grade. 6th and 7th grade, I went to D-Land Middle School, which is literally up the street and around the corner from Freedom Elementary. Now, during these years, like I say, we're living in D-Land, Florida. If you don't know D-Land, it's even countryer than Daytona is. A lot of woods, especially in the neighborhood that we lived in. I can count on 2 hands and feet how many bears and deers and stuff I done seen up close and personal. Dead rabbits and raccoons and turtles. I accidentally cracked a turtle shell out there once and felt so bad for it. Oh, I felt so bad. That's probably where a lot of my karma came from, to be honest, that turtle. I deserved it. But anyway, around this time I was still going outside. However, it was harder to go outside because it wasn't the neighborhood that we were in. Like I say, it was pretty much in the dang woods, and we were in the back of the neighborhood, and all of my other friends for the most part stayed in the front of the neighborhood, which was like on a bike probably like 10 minutes. So just walking at that age, little legs, that's a whole day adventure. Also around this time, my next 2 siblings were born, Fred and Forever. They are twins. I think they were born when I was in like the 5th or 6th grade, somewhere around there. Now, from the time my sister Isis was born until I pretty much moved out, I had taken on the responsibility of big brother and then some. My mom was forced to pretty much work a lot of hours due to being the sole provider. Granted, she wasn't by herself. She just didn't have that much support. So yeah, I took on that task very early. You know, washing dishes, cooking, cleaning, changing diapers, making bottles, all kind of stuff. It's where my childhood kind of like started to recede a little bit, because I started to have to spend more time in the house or at the house. So, always been interested in video games and stuff like that. Not big, but I definitely play, and I get good at whatever game I end up trying to play for me. I don't know why, it just happens. But around this time, I'm starting to game a little bit more. I'm playing baseball and stuff by myself, not on the team. I'm just knocking the dang balls into the woods, pause, and practicing and stuff like that. I started skateboarding, all kind of crazy stuff. 8th grade, we moved back to Daytona. Technically Holly Hill. And I started going to Holly Hill Middle School, which, RIP, because it's no longer standing. I don't know what the hell they used the building for now, but yeah, they could have kept the school. Went there for a year, met a lot of interesting people, a lot of people I still correspond with to this day, and my best friends, all of them. No, I didn't meet Reggie until we got to high school. So 2 out of 3 of my best friends I met at Hollow Hill Middle in 8th grade. So around this time, like I say, I'm pretty much in the house a lot because of my responsibilities. And I'm not really doing much. I was interested in a lot, but couldn't really get involved in a lot because I didn't have the time for it. 8th grade, I think shortly after 8th grade, if not the beginning of 9th grade, my last sibling on my mom's side was born. Amir, the baby, who is about to graduate high school in 2 years. And Fred and Forever just graduated last weekend. So shouts out to them. Isis graduated 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago now, or last year. One or the other. Daisha, she been out of school. I've been out of school since 2014. But I'm getting there. So 8th grade, I kind of consider myself again like it wasn't difficult, but I wasn't quick to make friends because again, yes, I lived in Daytona and knew some people around and stuff like that, but I was gone for 3 years, and during that like time period of a child's life, like it's very pivotal in as far as friendship. So I didn't really have that many friends when I got there, if any. I probably knew a couple of people from like elementary school that ended up going there and stuff like that. But met like I say, a lot of interesting people. People I still correspond with to this day. People I still, follow up with that are doing good and decent things. Some not so much. But I'm nobody to judge. So 8th grade comes and goes. Now it's time for high school. High school was a crazy time. I'm not gonna lie to you, because 9th grade, it wasn't really, it was shallow. It was, excited about being a freshman in high school. Dibbling, dabbling, girls and stuff like that. I didn't lose my virginity until the summer after that. Summer between my freshman and sophomore year, which is also the same summer that my grandma passed. She died of cancer. That time was a very difficult time period. Because I definitely consider my grandma, my nana, as my best friend. Granted, she was majority my disciplinarian, but whenever she disciplined me, it was well deserved. Because I'd be tweaking sometimes. Like I say, I was a very adventurous child. So I was mischievous sometimes too. My grandma was definitely the type to make you go pick your own switch off the tree, and it better be a specific size, pause, or she gonna make you go get another one. She gonna pick it herself. You don't want her to do it. Anyway, she passed away, and it just felt like everything just started going downhill from there. Honestly, like within my immediate family, like the household, to the immediate outer family, like aunties and uncles, going through it and getting into it with my mama. I'm seeing my cousins less and less. my auntie and my cousin Eddie and his siblings end up moving with my uncle and his kids, my cousins, to North Carolina. So they in a whole nother state now. I kind of started slacking off in school a little bit, wasn't really doing what I was supposed to be doing. Mom wasn't really in the right spot. It wasn't probably, but definitely it was the first time I tried to commit suicidal acts. But God had other plans because the firearm that I was using ended up jamming, so I took that as a sign. And I'm still here, rocking and rolling to this day. I was shortly after my grandma passed. I hardly tell anybody that story. Not really because I'm ashamed of it or anything. It's because I don't really like feeling like people are feeling bad for me, you know. So I kind of tucked that away. Shortly after that, sophomore year, for my birthday, I ended up I used to joyride in my mom's car because she would take sleeping pills to help her sleep at night. So I knew that once she took the pills, she was pretty much out of it until the morning. So I'd take the car a couple nights, joyride a little bit, get my feet wet behind the wheel. Granted, my auntie Felicia had been letting me drive and stuff in her lap and stuff like that since I was like 9. So I already had a little bit of experience, but as far as me being in the vehicle by myself, that was really what popped it off. But this particular night, like I said, it was my birthday. If I'm not mistaken, I was turning like 14 or 15, something around there, and picked my homie Willie up. We still best friends to this day. One of the original 4. Oh, and 9th grade is also when I met the last best friend, Reggie. He's also been on the show as well. Super Reg. Y'all go follow that boy on YouTube. He's doing big things. The boy just hit 300 subs. Proud of that boy being consistent. Daily, if not every other day, drops. And that boy be doing this thing on that Call of Duty, boy. Y'all go tap in. But I met him 9th grade. Grandma passed. Went through that little rough patch. My birthday, ended up picking up Willie. We went to Walmart. And on the way back from Walmart, we was going to just pull up to his house and I was just going to chill for the rest of the night until I went back home pretty much. And then he ended up saying that his mama wanted Krispy Kreme. So I ended up making a right turn on International off of Nova to turn left into the Krispy Kreme parking lot. There was a car coming about to T-bone us, so stepped on the gas a little bit and didn't press the brakes fast enough. Press the brakes just fast enough to not go through the wall, but not fast enough to not hit the wall completely. So I hit the wall of Krispy Kreme, the brake part. Didn't do no damage to the wall, but the bumper of the car was hanging off. Long story short, I got back home, went to school, did not say nothing to nobody. I should have been murdered. Oh, I should have been murdered. And I was so scared to go home that day. Jesus Christ. In school all day just thinking about it. And mind you, it's my birthday. Oh my God. The cop that was out there that came to the dang wreck scene was like, oh, it's your birthday today. Well, it's one way to bring it in. Crazy work. But yeah, that happened. And like I say, my father wasn't involved in my life like that for real. Growing up, I can count on one hand how many times I had seen him from the age of, I can recall, to high school. So from the age of 9 until about 17, I only had pretty much one father figure. And that was my little sibling's father. Well, long story short, him and my mom ended up splitting. He filled my head with a lot of, he was exposing me to a lot of things that I shouldn't have been exposed to at that age. I didn't really have no business in knowing, regardless if it was false or not. It was just something that you just shouldn't, bring a kid into. I was very much manipulated into thinking that he could do no wrong. So when stuff hit the fan and he moved out, I pretty much followed. And this was around my junior year of high school. Probably didn't talk to my mom for about a year, that whole school year. Then ended up moving back in with my mom after I walked in and overheard a conversation that my father figure was having with the person that we were staying with, pretty much. That just changed my whole perception on how I saw that him as an individual. Like, I don't really care what situation I was in. I don't think anything could have made me say what I heard him say. And I feel like he really said it because he didn't know that I was there to hear it be said. So it was how he really felt. So took that as a notion and went back in with moms for senior year. That's when I got involved in chorus and drama and stuff like that. Started singing more, acting. I was a thespian. Did a couple festivals and shows and stuff. I was in a play, Into the Woods. That's still on YouTube, unfortunately, until this day. Jesus Christ. But I had fun, I met a lot of interesting people. A couple of those people have actually been on the show. Shouts out to Max, shouts out to Brandon, Hell, Taya, Trinity, Marcus / Coop, one of my best friends. He was in chorus, and he was really the reason why I joined chorus in the first place. Honestly, if you want me to be honest, because like I say, I always had stage fright. So senior year, I went out on a limb and decided to perform in the senior talent show for homecoming. It was around homecoming time. Now, I was in drama class, but I had a free period because I pretty much had taken all the classes that I needed to take. So I wasn't in chorus yet, but I was in drama, and it was in the same classroom, and it was by the same teacher. Shout out to Miss Monahan. She was definitely a very influential person in my life at that point in my life too. I hope she's doing good in her endeavors as well. But yeah, did the talent show. That's when everybody pretty much found that I could sing. That's when Miss Monahan found that I could sing, and she was livid. She was like, "You've been in my drama class all year. Mind you, this is homecoming, so this is a couple months into the school year, and I'm just now finding out that you can sing." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't broadcast it like that." So it was her telling Marcus to tell me to join chorus. Ended up joining chorus. 5th period, if I'm not mistaken, because that was my free period. Kind of changed my life for the better a little bit, I will say. That inspired me to, I was also involved in culinary as well. So my original plan was after high school to go to the University of Miami for culinary, but I didn't apply because around that time my mom was a single mother and I didn't want to go that far away, just in case something happened. So I decided to apply for the university right here in Daytona, Bethune-Cookman. Got accepted, and my original field of studies was music. I was originally supposed to join the concert chorale. Now, my audition was the second day of freshman orientations in the morning. The first night of freshman orientation, we had what they called a freshman social, which was pretty much a party. And I ended up losing my voice, couldn't sing the next morning, so I couldn't audition. So when school started, I was just a music major. I wasn't in the concert chorale. I did music for maybe like a week and a half, maybe, and then changed my major to criminal justice. And was thinking about pursuing legal, career, maybe being a lawyer or something like that. Started learning up on the laws and stuff like that, and where they originated, why. Got to a point to where I just felt like it was better for me to know the information rather than live by it. It's also my sophomore year in college. I joined my dance organization. And shortly after that, I became involved in photography. So I wanted to change my major to photography or something along that, but the closest thing that Cookman had to that was mass communication. So I just pretty much stopped going to school before I wasted my or their time and money. This was right before my junior year, maybe just 2016, going into 2017. Yeah, it would have been like the summer of 2017 or the beginning of 2017. I stopped going, which 2016 was the first time I got arrested. I got caught in Orlando with an ounce of weed. Spent the night in jail, got out on pre-trial release. They ended up drug testing me not even 30 days after. And of course my pee was still dirty because I used to smoke like a dang chimney. So, got violated. Ended up turning myself into Daytona, Volusia County, because I had a bond. And as soon as I turned myself in, they revoked it. So I had to wait to get sent back to Orlando to get released from there. Got all that nipped in the bud or whatever. Was doing stuff for my dance organization, performing, trying to break myself out of the stage fright and stuff like that. I was still living with my mom at the time. And I was working at the bowling alley. I used to throw parties there every Tuesday or every other Tuesday. I think it was every Tuesday if I'm not mistaken. And shut the place down. So tough that it ended up the final night things got a little out of hand and shots were fired, of course, people being people. And yeah, that was the end of that. Then shortly after that, it came to light that the bowling alley was closing because they weren't paying their rent to the plaza that they were in. So out of nowhere, I was out of a job. Still living with my mom. Find a little job. Worked at Nike shortly. Worked at Route 21. Little side jobs. I'm trying to remember. I was at Nike for a good little minute. Then I moved out of my mom's house and moved in with one of my homies briefly. Then moved back in with my mom briefly. Then moved back out with one of my former homies for about a year. That was around 2018, 2019. My first daughter was born September 24th, 2019. Around this time, I was living out of my car because I started working at Trader Joe's, saved up enough to get a car. Ended up dang wrecking it like the first week. It wasn't bad, but I had to get it fixed. Took like a couple days. But then I ended up getting kicked out of pretty much the spot that I was in. So was living out of my car shortly before I moved in with my uncle. And then lost my job at Trader Joe's. Well, I didn't lose my job. I left. I ain't gonna cap. I definitely stopped going because I started dabbling and being a bud tender. And that started my bud tending career. Around this time, I had met my second daughter's mom, and we moved in together. Well, technically I moved in with her because it was her apartment pretty much. We were together for a good little minute. I was trying to get myself together slowly but surely. Still bud tending a little bit. Wasn't really interested in working for the man. And ended up catching my second charge at the end of 2020. And that just pretty much set off a whole nother chain of events and stuff. Got charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and possession of over 20 grams of marijuana, and was pretty much, fighting that for 2 years until I got sentenced. Now, during this time, I was with my daughter's mom, my second daughter's mom. I wasn't seeing my first daughter like that because, of, I guess, the relationship between me and her mom, which shouldn't really matter, but, it's a lot of history behind that. And, I'd definitely be down to have a conversation because I feel like we've both, I know I've grown definitely a lot as an individual since probably the last time we communicated, and I would definitely enjoy and love to be involved in her life and her getting with her other two siblings, being that I see them, often and get them and stuff like that. I would just like to get all them together and stuff, actually be involved if that's possible. But I had my second daughter. Well, I got sentenced while my second daughter's mom was pregnant and was sentenced to 90 days and 5 years probation. Ended up doing like 63 days or something like that. Got out maybe a few weeks before, probably a month before a little less than a month before her due date. And 'cause she was due on the 1st of July. And I was out in time to see that. I was involved in her birth and stuff like that. It was definitely an experience. That's my baby girl. Spitting image. Loves me to death. And I love her just the same. Definitely one of my driving forces. And but shortly after she was born, me and her mom split. And I definitely take a lot of accountability in saying I was pretty much the majority of the contributing factor behind that decision and move. But like I say, this time I was on probation. I had gotten a job at a local food spot. I'm not gonna say the name. And started working. We split up, and that's when I moved in with my now son's mom. Shortly after, I was supposed to move in with my dad's brother and sister, but what they had going on in their apartment at the time, it made a little bit more sense to go where I went. But I should have just went over there anyway. Probably would have been a good decision. However, I met my son's mom in not the most ethical way. Well, met technically through somebody else, but we started dibbling and dabbling while I was still in a relationship with my daughter's mom. And continued to do so pretty much afterwards. And she shortly after became pregnant with my son. A couple of months later, stuff happened, ended up having to move in with my dance brother and sister that I was going to originally move in with. Their situation had changed up a little bit, got a little clearer, so it wasn't as bad. Then the decision was pretty much made to get an apartment pretty much together, split the rent, stuff like that. Cool. So during this time, doing what I can, still on probation, can barely get a decent job because they're holding that over my head. Tried to get a job as a porter, was en route to have my own apartment and everything. Half the rent was going to be coming out of my check. I was going to have 2 jobs at the time if I would have been able to get that one. They liked me, it wasn't my character. But as soon as my background came back and they seen I was on active felony probation, it was over with. So that kind of spiraled. That put me in a little downward spiral emotionally. And fun fact, I forgot to mention that because I got charged with the crimes I got charged with, I was ordered to get a mental health evaluation done, which was where it was discovered that I possess anxiety, difficulty coping, and depression. So I was prescribed a medical marijuana card for that fact, so I didn't have to stop indulging in my marijuanas. I could do it legally, go to the dispensaries, do it the right way. So, we ended up getting the 3-3. I was working at the same establishment, the food restaurant, and my dad's sister was working as a leasing agent at the apartment complex, and my dad's brother was working as a porter or a maintenance man at the same apartment. So we was pretty much getting double, like 2 discounts off the rent. So all of us put together was like 4 and some change a piece a month. cool, I can do that on that budget that I was on from working at that establishment that I was working at. So everything was cool for a couple months, and then they lost their jobs the same day. And yeah, all hell seemed to just break loose after that. This was also around the time where I started Likkle Table Podcast. I actually filmed the first episode in that apartment that I'm talking about. We all had our own rooms. I had my setup in mind, everything, and it was decent. So, started a podcast and everything, and my premise was pretty much, I didn't really have a premise at first. My original thought was to have a co-host, and we just, go back and forth on different topics. I had the co-host. He said he had some family emergencies and stuff to handle. So I said, that's cool. I still want to do it anyway because I had already started investing and buying stuff. I already had some lights from photography and stuff like that, which I ended up having to stop doing because I ended up having to pawn my camera when I was living out of my car. So I had some stuff, but I still needed a lot more: microphones, headphones, audio boxes, all kind of stuff. I had lists, made a checklist of all the prices and everything, what I was going to have to spend, how I was going to have to spend it. I had a whole thing, and I was checking everything off the list 1 week at a time. Everything was going smooth. Like I say, they lost their jobs. That's when everything started going downhill. Rent went up. We couldn't pay it. Had to go. We moved out of there at the end of December, probably at the beginning of January, into a tutu. So I started having to sleep in the living room, started setting up in the living room. That's where episodes probably 2 through maybe 14 were filmed. Now, shortly after moving into this tutu, I quit that food spot and ended up being hired at another one because one of the people that I met at the first food spot left and went back to that food spot because they worked there before. So they left before I left. So when I left, they pretty much told me to come to where they were. And I did. Got hired on or whatever, started working there. Was doing that for a couple of months. And was pretty much told I had to get out. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing, like in the middle. But I'll probably fill in, moving forward. Anyway, which is when I moved into my storage unit, which is where I am now, which is where I've been filming Likkle Table Podcast from like episode maybe 17 until now. Slowly elevating, adding to the wall and stuff like that. But yeah, had to move into here, and it was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you at first. Definitely had to navigate how I did a couple of things. Wasn't really mobile at the time, so I was walking everywhere or catching lifts. Trying not to catch lifts because I really wasn't making that much where I was working at. Still trying to find another job, and also still on probation. However, from like month 3 of probation until 2025, I was on an automatic system pretty much. All I had to do was call in every month, and that's how I reported. If I had to come in the P-test, I came in, have a medical marijuana card, so I was always good. So that wasn't an issue. My probation officer was on beat about my situation. I was still trying to look for another job, but like I say, nobody was really trying to hire me because of me being on active felony probation. And yeah, it was a little rough. Shouts out to the couple of people that helped along the way when they did what they did. When I got in here, I think it was like 2 months later, I ended up getting my first e-bike. So I was mobile now. Then that e-bike ended up getting stolen the day after my birthday. It was crazy work. I was on my way to go see my son, stopped at Winn-Dixie to go use the bathroom, came out and the bike was gone. Oh, I was hurt. I wanted to fight, cry. Oh, it was bad, boy. So I was back immobile, still working at the same spot, trying to make moves. Now, still doing the show or whatever, everything's cool. I ended up being able to get my second e-bike because of my sister Miranda. Shouts out to her. She's also been on the show as well a couple times. And she's definitely a good person. It was because of her that I was able to get my e-bike. Still paying her off for that. Only have $100 more left on the tab, which will be paid next week. And yeah, through her I was able to get the bike. I was back mobile again, working, doing the show, paying my rent and stuff on time, my storage rent, slowly elevating, trying to save money. Couldn't really save because, like I say, the job I was working, it wasn't really paying much. I wasn't really working that many hours, so I was scraping, boy, but I was making it work, and ended up corresponding again with my son's mom, and shortly after, my e-bike started messing up. I think 2 days later, I lost my job. Then like a month or two later, I got violated on probation because they changed my probation officer without me even knowing. Went in there, it wasn't working, so I wasn't able to pay to renew my prescription. My urine was still dirty, so when they tested me, they violated me. Came back the next week on my son's birthday. They locked me up. I had to do 30 days. Got out, still trying to look for a job. Was solely financially dependent on my son's mom and her mom. Now, I definitely give them their kudos, for doing what they did for me in that time. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that situation because that's a story for another day. However, going on probation or whatever, still on probation when I get out. Gotta check in every month physically now. Still living with my son's mom and her mom for about a year. And then which is when I made her the co-host of the show, which you can see in, history. We was doing our thing or whatever, and stuff started to get a little rocky. Situations happened around the time where I got the job that I have now, thank God, that pretty much caused me to come back to living where I am now, and kind of put a extra strain on the relationship, and stuff ended, and became a little tumultuous. I mean, it's all right now, I guess, we're cordial, but again, that's a different story for another day. But ever since I've been back in here, I've pretty much been moved down to administrative probation, meaning that I can leave out of the county when I want to. Don't gotta check in monthly. Only gotta pay them $50, which I'm also paying next week. All I gotta pretty much do is not get into no more trouble until the end of my term, which is next April. And I don't do nothing to get in trouble, so that's not gonna be difficult. And I'm pretty much free. I can move where I want to, do what I want. Like I say, I've gotten this job. I've been able to knock down a $900 tab all the way down to $100 since I've been working, while also maintaining my storage bill, my phone bill, providing for my children, and any extracurriculars and saving. So I've definitely been on the up and up. It's been a journey. I think I did this episode to be a little bit more transparent with y'all, just to, I guess, show y'all what I've been going through since and before I started the show. I started this show to kind of help me get out of my shell, bring more people on, meet new people, network. You know, I don't really talk that much unless I need to. It just kind of forces me to have to talk. So it's kind of a good outlet. I also missed the details of when I decided to become Rastafarian, which was 2021. Shortly after that, I took the vow of a Nazarite. I'll explain later what that means as well. I haven't cursed in over 10 years. I practiced the art of not cursing over 10 years ago, just to, show a little bit of discipline. I got 3 kids now. I'm active in 2 of their lives. I want to be active in the first one's definitely. She just graduated kindergarten, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of wish I could have been there for the ceremony, but there's always things in the future. I'm getting myself into a better position. I definitely wouldn't want her to, see me like this. I would want to see her, but I just want to see her at my best. I guess I want to be able to provide how I want to, how I know I want to, which is another reason why I started this show. Hopefully to start making a little bit of monions, so I can start, flexing on them a little bit, trying to provide them with the childhood that I didn't have or wanted to have, or letting them live a little bit. And I've taken them to theme parks and stuff like that along the way so far when I could, with their moms or by ourselves or whatever the case may be. But like I say, now that I'm in a better position, I'm definitely wanting to do a lot more. A lot of things that I've been wanting to do that I wasn't able to do because of my financial situations. So that was a little bit about me, your host, your favorite neighborhood Rasta, aka Dan Norman, my real name. I hope you enjoyed, my deep dive into my past and reliving my dang traumas and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff that I definitely avoided and skipped over or watered down for the sake of, not changing people's views on certain people. But, my story is definitely still my story. Anybody that I've heard along the way, I definitely apologize. if it wasn't for a reason, definitely I was young, moving, grooving, vibing and sliding, living and learning life with nothing but pretty much examples of what not to do. So a lot of learned mistakes, a lot of things I had to learn on my own through my own mistakes and actions. But everything that I've been through has made me the person that I am today, which is just a person that wants to do the best that he can for the people that I decide to surround myself with and my children. I want to provide them with different avenues that I wasn't, privy to growing up. And yeah, hopefully we can make that happen. I'm hustling to do so. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here though. That was another episode of Likkle Table, episode number 85, my story. Any questions, comments, concerns definitely be answered in the comment section or in later episodes. For all of my listeners, viewers, and supporters, if you're watching the video on YouTube and like what you saw, make sure you drop the like for me, please. Post your comments, share the video with your loved ones, and subscribe to the channel. We are at 21 subs, trying to rock and roll and get the numbers back up there. Anything has been appreciated, loved, and everything will be in the future. For any of my listeners on any of the other streaming services, an example, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, so on and so forth, make sure y'all drop ratings and comments for me as well so I can know what y'all thought. A big shout out to the provider of the ambiance, the Laws Poopa / the Laws of Music, with more music streaming on YouTube and other streaming services as well. The boy's bad with a guitar, get into it, don't piss me off. Alright. And like I said, that was another episode. Y'all follow me on the social media handles. IG, call me Rasta. And we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. That was another one. Peace and blessings. Lord Jesus Christ. It's definitely going to be one for the book. I mean, I don't technically need a pre-conversation because it's only me in here. Why am I so nervous to do this? Jesus Christ. Just reliving trauma.